Welcome to the Backyard Bouquet Podcast, where stories bloom from local flower fields and home gardens. I'm your host, Jennifer Galizia of the Flowering Farmhouse. I'm a backyard gardener turned flower farmer located in Hood River, Oregon. Join us for heartfelt journeys shared by flower farmers and backyard gardeners. Each episode is like a vibrant garden, cultivating wisdom and joy through flowers. From growing your own backyard garden to supporting your local flower farmer, the Backyard Bouquet is your fertile ground for heartwarming tales and expert cut flower growing advice. All right, flower friends, grab your gardening gloves, garden snips, or your favorite vase because it's time to let your backyard bloom. Welcome back to the Backyard Bouquet Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Galizia, and I'm so glad you're here during this full and often very busy time of the year. Today, I'm joined by Charlotte Smith, a farmer, business coach, and the host of the Profitable Mindset podcast. Charlotte has helped thousands of farmers build sustainable businesses by combining mindset work with marketing strategies that actually feel good. I recently started listening to her podcast, and I knew right away that I wanted to bring her voice to this community. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the mindset shifts that can make or break your farm business, how to grow a loyal local market, and what it takes to run a business that supports your life, not just drains it. Charlotte also shares details about her free upcoming masterclass, 5 Mistakes Farmers Make That Keep Them Broke, happening August 18th and 19th. And if you're feeling stuck or stretched thin this year, this is something you won't want to miss. The link for this is in the show notes today. And if you're enjoying this podcast, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to leave a review or share this episode with a fellow flower friend. It truly helps this show reach more growers like you. All right, Charlotte, welcome to the podcast. It's so great to have you here today.
Oh, Jennifer, thank you so much for having me.
It's such an honor. It's been so fun listening to your podcast while I've been out planting our new field, and you've given me so much inspiration. And then when you started talking about your daughter being a flower farmer and you've worked with other flower farmers, I was like, okay, Charlotte's got to come on the podcast.
Good. Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm glad our paths crossed and that you're so close. Usually I meet farmers across the United States and you're just an hour and a half up the road.
I know. Maybe one day I'll get to meet you in person.
Definitely.
Okay. So for those of you who are listening, or for those that are listening to the podcast today that aren't familiar with you, Charlotte, can you give us a little bit of a background on your journey into farming and what led you to coaching?
Oh, goodness. Yes. Okay. I'll try to make it short.
Loaded question.
Right. So I grew up right next door on my family's fifth generation farm, and we raised commodity products. And what happened was in the 80s, my dad's farm went bankrupt and we lost everything. And that was common back then. And what was interesting is when we lost everything, we didn't raise food. We were a commodity farm. And so we had food scarcity. Here we're living on this farm and we couldn't even enjoy food that we had raised. We were short on money and short on food. And so when I went away to college, I swore farming was just a ridiculous way to make a living. And then when my kids were in grade school in the suburbs of Portland, I really wanted them to have this lifestyle. So we moved back out here. I found property and we purchased it. And I didn't purchase it with the intent of farming. I just wanted the lifestyle and live near my parents, their grandparents. And what happened is we started discovering the health benefits of farm fresh food. So we started raising our own raw milk and pork and chicken and beef. And then everyone, of course, once you start a farm, they're like, oh, could I buy some from you, some of your products? So I had a farm store here. It's here on the property. And I did that. And then farmers started asking, how was I able to sell all my products? I rented 75 acres next door, plus my own farm. So we had lots of space for all these animals. And how was I able to sell everything at often twice what they could charge? And we were selling out. So I started teaching farmers marketing here at my house. And this is back in 2012, 2013. And when I got to 50 farmers here at my house, I was like, I got to do something different. And I put all my training online and I started marketing or teaching marketing online. And that again was 12 years ago. So a few years ago, my daughter, sixth generation, she's now farming. She's doing a flower farm. That's her passion. And I closed down my meat store because this work I do is full-time. I work full-time. I have a few employees that work for me with coaching and helping teaching farmers how to make money selling their products, whatever it might be. And then your last part of your question, why add mindset coaching? I was teaching marketing, all the skills, and I noticed that everyone learned it and some of them implemented it and others would be like, oh, I'm scared, or I don't know where to start, or what if I don't do it right? And I realized I started hearing about mindset and I realized the only difference was how they were thinking about it. The ones who were having success were just telling themselves a different story. Like, I'm going to figure this out. I can't wait to help people learning. I can't wait to learn this new thing that's going to help me serve more people. They just had a positive mindset about it instead of negative. So I went and I got certified in mindset coaching, and now I coach in my marketing program. That you can't buy just the marketing class. You have to, the coaching is built into it because that is the difference that makes farmers successful. And so now the farmers who work with me see an increase in sales on average of 200% in their year, that my program's a year long. 200%, they pay off the investment in the program within usually by, on average, the first 90 days. And then they just keep making more and more money, more and more profit. And this is every kind of farmer, but I work with tons of flower farmers because that's my passion. I've always had a huge, probably 1 acre garden, never sold a stem because I was working on selling food products. But I am so delighted that my daughter is turning it into a flower farm because imagine, I used to be surrounded by smelly pigs and now it's our gorgeous dahlias and sweet peas and all the things that are blooming right now. So that's kind of the long journey around how I ended up where I am now.
Thank you for sharing all of that. I'm a huge believer in mindset. It's been instrumental in my own journey. And that was why I wanted you to come on and share about all of this. Do you feel like, looking back on your career as a farmer, did you always have this positive mindset mentality as you were farming, or is it something that you had to learn and develop as a skill?
So that's a really great question. Our minds are, and also, I love what you said. You're a believer in this. We also, because I was a believer before I became aware, we have science that shows us our thoughts create the results in our lives. So now it's not only do I believe it or not, it's like, oh my goodness, there's so much research evidence, not to mention my own anecdotal evidence. So to answer your question, our brains are always, they're wired, biologically wired to go to the negative for survival. We always are going to see what's wrong with something. So therefore, shifting your mindset is not a once and done thing. It is a constant, you have to be intentional about, if I'm feeling a negative feeling, that I'm thinking a negative thought, and that's not going to be useful in building my business. So yes, when I found it early on, I had the normal unmanaged negative mindset, which is why I'm always reading and researching and listening. And that was when I discovered that, you can actually decide to think useful thoughts, and then you will improve your sales. You will make more money and your relationships will get bigger. So yes, I am not naturally, I'm just like everyone else, wired to go negative and critical and see what's not working. and think about that. And so I have spent years intentionally shifting my mindset. I actually head out tomorrow to Nashville, Tennessee to spend 2 days in person with my mindset coach because
Oh, awesome.
I go in person every 6 months and get an update, and then weekly meetings. So it's ongoing for me and everybody just because that's how we're wired.
So, when you were starting your farming journey, how did you develop that mindset for yourself? What did you have to do in your own business to become a successful farmer? Because you had already experienced heartache from your family when your family farm declared bankruptcy. So I imagine that you already had I kind of these limiting beliefs in your mind saying this is going to be hard. This is something that can lead to failure. How did you get that out of your mind to become a successful farmer?
Sure. Well, I studied communications in college. I had a corporate job. I was in real estate at that time, and we learned a lot of marketing in real estate. So I actually did not even, my decision was my dad had a commodity farm. So someone else told him what they were going to pay. So when I started my farm, my mindset that got me through, very useful, and I didn't even choose it intentionally, but the mindset was, I am going to charge a fair price based on the expenses and my time. And if someone doesn't want to buy my product at that price, that's okay. But this is what I have to charge to be able to serve them. So I actually never, luckily, I think I stumbled on I did not have the doubt that I would make money. I just knew that, okay, here's how you market a business. This is what you do. And I have to price it to obviously cover my costs and pay me a livable wage. I was a sole income provider in my family. I have 3 kids at home. So I was pretty lucky for the business mindset part of it, that I just knew that my farm was going to look very different from my dad's. And if I wanted to keep the farm had to pay the bills and then some. It had to pay the mortgage. It had to pay the groceries, or why would you keep a farm? So I kind of stumbled onto that part of the positive mindset. I would say where I struggled with and also to finish up that conversation. So I was going to sell direct to consumer. And I know you said you've been selling wholesale. Now you're going to sell direct to consumer. I was determined to sell direct to consumer so that nobody was trying to undercut me because of a contract or, whatever the commodity market was doing that week, for instance. So, and that's my work today, as I work with farmers selling direct to consumer. But how the mindset challenges I had early on, I knew I was going to be profitable, set myself up to be profitable. Otherwise, why work this hard? But I would say the challenges were negative thinking around people and relationships, and like things would get hard, and I would just think this shouldn't be so hard. And even that thought is poison and makes things harder. Or I felt an employee would not perform and I would just be frustrated. Well, that's not useful. And so when I discovered mindset work, it just helped every relationship that I had on the farm, my family, my parents, my employees, the vendors, my customers. It's really easy when you sell on your farm. It can be tempting to resent all these people coming and knocking on your door and driving fancy cars or whatever it might be. And so it cleared up all of that. So it has been life-changing, and mindset work has been the thing that has made running my business not just profitable, but wonderful. Every relationship is wonderful. So I hear from farmers who say, well, we're finally making money, but it's not worth it because and what they don't realize is because their mindset is so negative all the time.
You briefly hinted at an example, but could you go a little bit deeper on example of one of those limiting beliefs that you're talking about here? So and coming from like a flower farm perspective, what is something that a farmer might think that they won't, or maybe not even consciously realizing that they're limiting themselves on?
Yes, they're usually not. They usually don't realize at all, because the mindsets that keep you stuck are very simple and you think they are facts. And it's as simple as, this is so hard. I don't know where to start. Nobody's buying my stuff. Email marketing doesn't work. Social media marketing doesn't work. Those are simple things that farmers will think, well, yeah, that's a fact. It's not a fact. It's a thought that's keeping you feeling terrible about doing the thing to move you ahead, so you don't. Or another thought would be, people don't value the work I have to put into this. People don't value that I had to get up at 5 a.m. and put their arrangements together, or people are so demanding. Like, all of these thoughts, the things that you think about going through your day that you think are matter of fact are not, and they're the things keeping you stuck. So that can be the tricky part about mindset work, is we often, as humans, we've created this pattern of thinking that we just default to. And it truly is that simple. Like, oh, it'll never work. Oh, blogs don't work in today's world. Oh, I need some, just, I could go on and on, but just be aware that it's the very simple things. It's not complicated thoughts. It's the things you're telling yourself in the moment. Like, I don't want to write this marketing email because no one reads email anymore. Number one, it's not true. But number two, you just trained yourself to think that. And number three, when you think nobody reads email, the last thing you feel is motivated to write an email.
Totally. I love what you're saying here. For myself, I spend a lot of time alone because I don't have employees at the time at my farm. So I'm out harvesting. And so I'm usually either listening to a podcast or an audiobook. And one of the books I read was Don't Believe Everything You Think. And it really helped me realize what a scarcity mindset I had without even realizing it. Like, why am I even thinking this? It's not true. And I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard the universe really only hears love or fear. Like, you either hear positive or negative thoughts, and what you tell yourself becomes that reality. So if someone is stuck in this mindset of, oh, people aren't going to spend $30 for my bouquet, or this email doesn't matter, how do you get unstuck from that?
The easiest, and okay, this is a plug for coaching. I love to say, you can't read the label from inside the jar. So if you're in your own head and you're like, no, I can't, people just aren't going to pay this much in my area. I hear that all the time. They can't even see that they're thinking that. So the very first step, it would be lovely to have someone to say, what if they will? Because people come on my coaching calls. We do 2 coaching calls a week, and they'll come on there and they'll be like, Charlotte, you got to help me. In order to make money, I have to charge $50 a bouquet, but nobody in my area is going to pay that. And all I have to say is, what if they will? And their mind is blown. They're like, oh, you're right. I don't even know that. I haven't even tried it. There are some people who all of a sudden, as soon as I say, what if they will, they start seeing the possibility of that being true. So that's the very first step. And if you can't remember, or if you're not working with a coach that can point that out, the best thing is try to remember to do it yourself. I do a practice every day where I write down my thoughts, and then I look at those thoughts and I just notice, does that make me feel positive or negative? And if it's a thought like, nobody's going to buy my $30 bouquets, I know that, oh, that makes me feel negative. And I'm glad I wrote it down. Now I can just coach myself and say, what if they will? So it's as simple as asking yourself to broaden your perspective, to just consider the opposite. Or it could be marketing. I hate marketing. And I might say something like, what if it's okay to hate marketing and use it to make $100,000 in sales a year, or $1 million in sales a year? And just that question. So I like to say that questions, either you ask yourself or have your coach will ask you. Questions will help instantly turn around those negative thoughts.
I love that. I've had a coach for the last year and a half, and it's been instrumental in my life. But I know not everyone can afford a coach. So, but you can do a lot of this work yourself as well, if you're in a position where you can't afford that coach. So, for a flower farmer who's feeling stuck right now, and it's the middle of the season, so maybe they're overwhelmed, the weeds are out of control, like on my farm, or they're feeling burnt out from endless summer of farmers markets, or they're unsure of how to price their flowers, what's the first thing they should do? Is it ask those questions to get unstuck, or how do they first begin?
Usually, unstuck or stuck comes from a feeling of overwhelm. And overwhelm comes from a thought, a series of thoughts, some flavor of there's too much to do. There's so much to do. I don't know where to start. I'll never get it all done. See, so somewhere in their mind, they're thinking, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. Oh my gosh, I'll never get caught up. That creates overwhelm, the feeling of overwhelm, and then they're stuck. It's very, and this is again, this is science backed. That's the process: thought, feeling, action, or in this case, lack of action. So if they're feeling stuck, they can immediately know that, okay, it's probably some version of the thought, there's too much to do. I can't get it all done. There's nobody to help me. I should have done it better early. I should have planned better. It's something like that. And then they can just pause and say, what if I only have one thing to do? That on a coaching call, which is always like, I'm like facing someone on the screen and they'll be like, there's so much to do. I'm really overwhelmed and I'm stuck. It's very predictable pattern. And I can say, what if you only have one thing to do? And there's just immediate relief I can see on their face. Like, oh, well, I guess I do have one thing to do only because tomorrow's pickup day. So today I have to harvest. And they immediately see their way through, and there's immediate unstuck. So again, it goes back to questions you can ask yourself. And so, yes, if you're feeling overwhelmed, just say, what if there's only one thing to do? And then when you get that thing done, it's okay. What is the next one thing I have to do? Oh, I have to go water that area. And then you're done. What is the next one thing I have to do? Oh, I need to sit down at my desk for 2 hours and get the marketing email down. So when we approach it that way, they get unstuck very quickly. I also teach a time management program along with my marketing class. It's built into that too, for that very reason, because often farmers in general, and of course flower farmers specifically this time of year, we think everything has to happen at once. I got 10 things that have to happen right now. And if you tell yourself that, you're going to overwhelm yourself. So I teach them very deliberately how to calendar it in a way that is so relieving. And you find 10 to 20 hours in your week when you do it that way. So
I love that. That's such great. Yes, that is. I know I start every day. It used to be I would wake up in the middle of the summer and I'd rush out to harvest the flowers. But now I sit down with my cup of coffee and I've got my massive dump list of like everything that's on my mind that I need to take care of. And of course, it's way longer than I can probably complete in a month, but at least it's down on paper. And then I'm like, okay, what are the 3 things that I have to accomplish for the day? And it's so much more manageable when you narrow it down. Instead of looking at this huge task list, I'm like, okay, I can check off 3 things today. I can do this. But I love that you simplified it down to just one.
Yes, because even those 3, they will sit and loop on, well, which of these 3 should I do first? If I do this first, then do that later, will that work? Or if I do that first and this later, will that work? We stop the looping. Yeah, you might just try that. Like, okay, here are my 3 essentials for today. Which one thing do I have to do right now? And that's it. And it doesn't matter. That's the other thing. Farmers will loop on, well, I have to do the right thing right now. Nope, just do one thing. Because you're not getting any of it done anyway. When you're sitting there stuck, you're not moving ahead on any of it. So just choose one thing and let's do it for 1 hour, 2 hours. That's it.
That's such great advice. A question about your coaching and your membership. When you say that you sit with someone and you're talking like we are today, do you do one-on-one coaching or is it group coaching? How does that format work?
Yes, it's group coaching, but it's as if you're one on one. So, right here, you and I are looking at each other, and it's a webinar set up on Zoom. So, there might be 20 other people on the call, but you can't see or hear them. And the reason I've never done one on one coaching in that program is because every farmer, they often start out thinking they're the only ones struggling with that thing, but they move ahead so much faster. They get to profit faster and faster when they see that they watch the group coaching calls and they see me coach one farmer and they're struggling with the exact same things. And they can be out in their greenhouse listening to the coaching call replay and up level their life like, 50% just from listening. So I only do group coaching because everybody benefits more faster, more and faster from doing that.
I love that you said that all of our problems are universal. I mean, we're all struggling with the same things, whether we realize it or not. And it's so true that just hearing someone else, it's almost reaffirming, like, oh, maybe my problem's not so big because someone else is dealing with it. And then you all of a sudden have an actionable step for solving something, whether you already have the problem or maybe it's something that's going to happen in a week or two that you're not prepared for, but now you're prepared because you've heard from someone
Yes,
else's experience.
yes. It's fantastic. There's about 300 farmers a year that go through the program, and many of them come back year after year, 5, 6 years now. That some of and they just the more you coaching again, it's not a once and done thing. The more you listen to these calls and up level your life, you just keep improving everything year after year after year.
I love that. And I think you're a perfect testament of that because you just said that you also have a coach yourself.
Yes. Yes,
So
I do. And I don't imagine ever being without a coach in my life.
it's, yeah, what you said about the leveling up. I mean, I would have never been able to take the leap with our new farm and feel like I could go from 1 acre. We're not growing on 20 acres, but we have a 20-acre parcel now. And it just feels manageable because I can look at it on many different levels and feel like, okay, I can tackle this.
To have that support. And I think I was so open to coaching because think of it like an athlete. I grew up, I've always been a competitive athlete from when I was a kid, equestrian. I always had a horse trainer who would be called a coach today, probably. Always, and whether it was piano lessons or then, running, biking, swimming, sprint triathlons, I've always had a coach in the athletic field, and I never could have accomplished the championships and the finishing races and things. I never would have been able to do that had I not. And it's so understand like it's acceptable in the sport, the athletic world that Michael Jordan, the best basketball player in the world, walks off the court during the middle of the game, and the coach immediately sits down next to him and says, okay, here's what we got to do. And some of it's mindset work and some of it's physical. We've seen that our whole lives, and that's acceptable. Well, this is the same thing. And the farmers in my program just have success they never imagined possible because they have that person in their ear developing them, supporting them, encouraging them, giving them feedback, giving them perspective and awareness, giving them examples from other farms like, oh, well, this flower farmer I coached last year, she did this and it worked. So there's that too. In a coach in the group setting, they're all in a Facebook group together where they're sharing ideas and inspiration that also moves them ahead faster.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing about your coaching and that mindset because it is so important. And it's so nice sometimes, especially if you're working alone as a farmer, to have someone just be like, you're doing it, you got it, and giving you that positive reinforcement can make such a difference to have that cheerleader,
Yes, farming is a lonely world when you're a small size.
which I think most of my listeners are on the small scale. Let's switch gears if we can and talk about local flowers and local farming in terms of nurturing your local market and community. How does someone go about building a strong customer base with their community?
Sure, you have to get off the farm. There's no way around it. We're faced with social media, and so it's at our fingertips, and we're tempted to think we can sit in the house and just go on social and build a community. It will happen very, very slowly. But if you meet someone in person, they will become a customer probably 100 times faster than someone you might meet on social media. So, or the internet, something. And or people will want to skip meeting people in person and put flyers around or put an ad somewhere. None of that will work. To you you won't become profitable fast enough to be sustainable. Like, you will give up if you just rely on that. You got to get out in your community. And when you get out in your community, you build business so quickly. And what I mean by that, so in my program, I did a Facebook post once in our private group and the group coaching. And I said, hey, everyone, what are you doing to build your email list, build your customer base? What are you doing in your community? And I have a 2-page list of about 50 different things people do. And how this looked for me when I was building my farm is, and share a story about my daughter. But when I was building my farm, every Wednesday, I left the house at noon, and I knew I had to pick my kids up at 3 o'clock after school. So I left my house at noon, and I always had product in my car. And if I didn't have product at the time, it might be store-bought flowers, but I had something, some sort of a gift. And I would have either a coffee date planned with a current customer or a girlfriend. It didn't have to be a customer. Or I would stop in when I went to somewhere in town. Because I was in real estate, I would go to the real estate meetings they had every Tuesday where everyone talked about what houses, new listings they had. And I went there and said, here's some product. This is what I do. When you have with the idea that when you have people move into the area, send them my way. With flowers, you could connect with local realtors, especially when you're in small towns. It's a handful of realtors that everyone knows at least one realtor.
Absolutely.
And you do something, you deliver the move-in bouquet that the realtor will contract with you to deliver the day their client moves in. Or the other day, my daughter was we have a local newsletter for our local community, and she was going to talk to him about placing an ad. And I said, well, be sure you take him a bouquet of flowers. And she's like, really? And I said, yes. And so he put them on his desk, he put a picture on social media, and then he bought her CSA.
Awesome.
So that's an example of what it turns into when you get out in your community. I'm in wine country, so go visit wineries, and you're in wine country. You're in all kinds of,
yes.
all kinds of opportunity. And we all do. Go to the library and offer to teach a free class on how to arrange your flowers. Is it because women don't know how to arrange flowers? No, it's because they're looking for ways to gather something that's interesting, that's not sitting home watching TV or scrolling on social media, something where they can, and it's not either also just going out eating and drinking. People are looking for activities to do. So free class at the library, even if it's only 3 people, those people, because they met you in person, are so much more likely to not only buy from you, but also tell their friends.
And I'm sure there's probably studies that show when one person speaks about your farm. Do you know what that is? Like how many people it reaches versus, I mean, you brought up such a good point with social media that we can post on social media, but it's going to take a really long time versus, I think if you, like, for example, if I post on social media, most of my reach isn't even in my area.
Exactly.
But if I go out to the community and drop off a bouquet, like I brought my veterinarian a bouquet last week.
Good for you. You're doing it. Yes.
And yes, and they said that so many people made comments on the bouquet. So I imagine, like, if I think about it, there are probably 20, 30 people coming through an office a day that are seeing those. Do you know what the statistic is on the reach of a local?
I don't know. This, I just have to share this right now. So once she had that experience with the guy who then bought the CSA, she then went to her chiropractor appointment, took a bouquet, and the gal said, I'm getting married next week. Just the two of us. We just need elopement flowers. And I was going to get them at the, grocery store. But will you do it? And she made a sale and she made a long-term customer. So I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but here's what I do know. Many of us can use our anecdotal research that our friends and family were our first customers, and our customer base will grow to a certain point before we have to go out and do more. So, I know my first customers were the moms in my play group, probably 5 moms. And I was sold out immediately on with 20 customers. This was when I had the raw milk dairy. So 5 moms turned into 20 people at my farm. So my own anecdotal research that's not scientific whatsoever could be that it's like 4 or 5 times your customer base will grow by 4 or 5 times, but you also have to teach them how to share the word. You just can't expect them to share. And you learn in my marketing, I teach them how to utilize, be strategic with your family and friends and teach them how to share about your farm. But yes, you could probably, if you do ask your current customer base to share regularly or create events where come to the farm for a tour and bring your mom and your sister and your daughter and your cousin, you can grow your base that way as well.
Absolutely. Can we ask you to share? You just said you teach your friends and family how to share about your farm. Can you give us a few tips, 1 or 2 suggestions of what we might be able to do?
Sure, just asking them to. Most people don't even ask. So it could be a text, like say I'll use the mom at the play group. And so you would text her and say, hi, Beth, I'm so glad you love the flowers. Do you have friends or anyone you know that would enjoy these too? And what I often tell, like I would suggest to my daughter, if I were to give her advice, take 2 bouquets, take a bouquet to the person you're selling to, and then give them an extra bouquet and say, give this to your friend, mom, sister, neighbor, whomever, and tell them about our farm. So that's just a very simple way. So it's not saying, hey, you need to go to Jennifer's farm and spend money. It's here's a gift from my favorite flower farmer. And all of a sudden they're feeling warm and fuzzy, like, oh my gosh, she doesn't even know me. I'm going to look her up. Oh, wow, look at her Instagram. I'm going to get out there. She's having a farm tour. Her store's open next Saturday. So it's as simple as just asking them to share about you. But if you can give them something to give their friend, that's even better, because the friend feels good giving it, and the friend, your customer, feels great giving this gift. And flowers are really easy to share. It doesn't have to be a big bouquet. It can be a little tiny one.
Everyone loves flowers. I remember one year I grew a bunch of zucchini with our flowers, and my husband was like, "You can't make friends with zucchini, Jen."
Yeah,
I'm like, "But I can with my flowers."
right. That's hilarious. Zucchini bread.
Yes. I was like overrun. I had seen this YouTube video and I've never had time to try this. So I'm sharing my secret that I thought I was going to try. I grew like 20 feet. It was like 20 by 40 feet. It was an insane amount of zucchini. I
That
had seen
is.
this YouTube video and I cannot find it again for the life of me. And this lady, instead of foam, was using zucchini for her vases or for her event flowers. And I was like, if I could do that, that would be awesome. Well, I was so busy that summer, I didn't have time. And so I was like, I just need to give this zucchini away. And
You
people were
mean
like, no, I'm good.
she would shred it or cut it in half and stick the flowers in the zucchini?
She
Or?
would cut it to fit whatever it was that she needed. Or on a table, she would just set it on the table and then poke the holes and put the flowers in it for the event. And of course, they're not going to last forever that way, but long enough for an event to take place, because the idea is that there's so much moisture in the
Yes.
zucchini. And I have yet to try this. This was like 3 years ago, but I couldn't give away my zucchini. I ended up taking a whole bunch to the food bank and dropping off bags. But I had so much zucchini bread and everything. But farmers don't have time to bake in the summer. So,
Right, I know.
but okay. So what I wanted to ask you, I'm getting off track here. I'm sorry, is this is a mindset piece, I think, for a lot of farmers, because you always hear, don't give away your flowers, don't undervalue your flowers. What's the difference between undervaluing your flowers and giving them away?
Oh, such a good question. So undervaluing for start with being generous. If we're always given away, like if you there's this in sales, there's the element of this feeling of reciprocity. When you give someone something for free, they just feel they want to reciprocate. If they've never thought of buying flowers ever before, as soon as you give them something, you've just opened them up to, oh my gosh, I should. They feel obligated in a good way to buy from you. So we want to be giving away all the time, strategically, not just setting up a stand next to the road and saying free flowers. It's got to be strategic. Like the giveaway is to the friend who bought the bouquet, and then the second one for free that you arranged to have her give it to someone that could be a potential customer. And it's then that is very different from valuing your flowers. And what a lot of farmers do is they just we again, remember, our minds are wired for the negative. So our minds are wired to always go to, it's not good enough. It's not good enough, and I'm not good enough. So if you're aware of that at first, if you just become aware that you're going to think it's not good enough, and you're going to think you're not good enough, and you're going to think the people aren't going to pay the price, just be aware that that's what's going to come up first. And then you can intentionally say, okay, negative thoughts, get in the back seat. Let's come from a place of valuing what we do. And you've got to dive into the numbers. You have to know how much it costs you. Because if you're selling a $30 bouquet that costs you $29, if you add up your parts of your mortgage, your electricity, the seeds, your labor, and maybe even it costs you $35 to produce when you get to the end of it and you're only selling it for 30, that awareness is huge. So then often they see the price value, like, okay, I see that since it costs $35 to produce, it's worth at least $30, but then they don't value themselves. They're like, but I can't charge any more than what it costs. They feel really terrible. And so that's the coaching work we have to do, is what is your belief about yourself? And if you don't, your belief about yourself is always going to be the ceiling that you can charge money for or profit your farm. If a farm is not profitable, I know there's a whole lot of limiting beliefs they have about themselves. So once we work on those beliefs that I am worthy just because I exist, I worked hard for this, so I am worthy of getting a paycheck for this, and they believe in their customers. I will teach my customers how to value this, and my customers will then pay this price. Then we have this upward spiral of them finally becoming profitable. And I call that the belief triad. You have to believe in your product, and that's often really easy for them. Like, oh yeah, I believe the flowers are pretty, and I believe they're worth it because they're worth $30 because they cost $32 to produce. But what they don't believe in is themselves, and that's what they've got to work on. And once they have that belief in themselves being inherently worthy to receive money, then they'll start pricing more accurately, something that actually includes a profit in there.
That is so good. I think I was having a conversation with another farmer recently, and we were talking about perfectionism and how perfectionism kind of really ties in, I think, a lot with those limiting beliefs. Well, it's not, my bouquet is not perfect, so maybe I can't charge enough, or my field's not perfect enough, so I can't open it up. And I would say that a lot of flower farmers, I'm not saying everyone, I don't want to stereotype, but I think a lot of listeners probably would classify themselves as a perfectionist, or having perfectionism syndrome, or whatever you want to call it. How do we release that mindset?
Oh, I heard this saying, that helped me. Perfect people are scared people. You're not worried about the field not being perfect. You're scared of someone driving up and saying, "Oh my gosh, your field's a mess." You're scared. That's what you're scared of. So once you look at what you're really scared of, you realize your perfectionism is not coming from a beautiful place. It's coming from a negative emotion. And this is where I go back to look at the thoughts you're thinking. And if they make you feel bad, then it's not a useful thought for your business. And so a thought like, I can't have people over. There's too many weeds in the yard, or I'm embarrassed for people to see my house or my place or my field or anything. That's all coming from the fear of what you are hallucinating people might say.
That is so good. So when you realize that, is just that realization enough to allow yourself to then be like, okay, my field doesn't have to be perfect, or this bouquet doesn't have to
Well,
be perfect?
if I were coaching them, it would probably be a 20-minute coaching session. So,
Okay.
and coaching is questions. So I'm asking them questions that just broaden their perspective. And by the end of the 20 minutes, they're like, oh. And so often one of the questions they'll say, I'm really struggling. I need coaching today. I'm struggling because I'm supposed to do a farm tour. I know it'll help the business, but my field just doesn't look good, and my yard is weedy, and this one bed dried up, and it's just not good enough. And I will listen, and then I know their feeling is scared, and they'll say, I'm a perfectionist, but it's really coming from a place of fear of what people might think. And I'll just say, what if it is good enough? And it'll just melt away. They'll be like, oh, well, maybe it is because it's August and things dry up in August. It's August and the weeds sprouted. Or the questions will just help turn that around. And then I'll ask them all sorts of, as a mindset coach, I don't have a list of questions I go through 1 through 10. I respond to whatever they say in the moment, the next logical question after that. And by the end of the 20-minute coaching call, they'll see that, oh, I'm good enough. My farm is good enough. And if 10 people come over, chances are they're going to love it. But if one of them says, what about these weeds? I can just own it. I can take ownership. So we will have that complete transformation. When you've got a coach asking you questions, it just facilitates your growth so quickly. So by the end of the 20 minutes, they are just so solid, like, oh yeah, my place is good enough. I can now cancel all the people I was going to have come and spend all this money painting and redoing and all that, because it's good enough the way it is.
I
And
love that.
one thing I love to tell everyone, if you're worried about people coming to your farm and seeing where you work, they can't buy this on Amazon. They can't buy the experience you're giving them on Amazon. And the experience, many farmers think the experience has to be something sensational. I learned from watching the customers in my store, the experience was driving in and feeding the horse an apple across the fence. That meant the world they would pay $100 for a bouquet to have that experience. Or, I'm not kidding you, driving out, walking in the farm store and petting the cat that lays next to the cash register. We as farmers discount that is why they're willing to pay an enormous amount that is warranted for your bouquets. Or tours or farm tours or events or classes, whatever it might be.
That's so good. I actually was talking to Kiss the Ground earlier today, and they had collaborated with me a while back, and they shared on social media this post that we worked together on. And on their caption, it says something along the lines that only 8% of people have talked to a farmer in the last year.
Oh, yes, I believe that.
So when you're talking about this experience, it was kind of this aha moment for me that tied it back to that this really, we are so ingrained that like every day we're touching the soil, we're touching the flowers, we're petting our animals. But some people have never experienced that before, and it is about the experience that you're creating.
Yes. And so if you have a flower farm and you have a flower patch, no matter how tiny it is, you can have a farm tour that you can charge for. And when you charge for it, people will be delighted to come out and stand there and hear about what you do every day, what your day is like. And they'll just think that's you're the bee's knees. Like, oh my goodness, look at this woman. And this is what she does. This is my dream life. It's everybody's dream life, right? And because of that experience that they paid for, that they can't buy anywhere else online anywhere, they are now willing to come back every week for their $50 bouquet per bouquet CSA subscription, for instance. So I want every farmer listening to know that if you have a little flower patch, you have a farm tour that you can invite people from your community to. And I also don't want to mislead people that nobody's ever going to complain. If you have 10 people out, there might be one person who says, oh, this is it. That's okay. Let them. That Mel Robbins has that new book titled, Let Them. That's huge. Like, let them. It's true. You might have you're not having your farm tour because you say you're a perfectionist, but it's really fear of what people might think. Well, 99 out of 100 people are going to love it. One person is going to say, oh, but what about all those weeds? And that's okay. Let them. And you can say, yeah, those are my weeds. I always just kind of make a joke, like, or I'll say something like, yes, I'm doing the best I can. And it just neutralizes and everyone has a great time.
And that ties back to Mel Robbins' book also, because the first half of her book says, let them. And then it says, let me. And you responded with that positive, it's
Yes.
okay.
Yes. Yes. I love when people, and not very many people are going to criticize us as farmers, but you do open yourself up to criticism whenever you sell to the public. And I usually just come back with instead of snippy, because some farmers will say, help, I need coaching because I'm really snippy at everyone. So you will learn to come back with a very graceful response, like, oh, I just believe we're all doing the best we can. Or I'm doing the best I can. If someone comments, like, shouldn't you have picked those sunflowers by now? Yes, I'm just doing the best I can. It always neutralizes people.
And that's such a positive affirmation to give yourself also. If you just tell yourself, I'm doing the best I can, or I lately have started telling myself if I get frustrated with something, I'm like, well, that person's doing the best they can.
Yes. Yes, because most of us wake up thinking, I should have done that better. I should have done yesterday better. I should have harvested that yesterday. I should have. And if we wake up and say every day, every moment of every day, I'm doing my best. And so is this grouchy customer or something like
Yes.
that. It's a great reminder that we're all doing our best. And sometimes that means we slip up and make a negative comment to ourselves, or someone else slips up and makes a negative comment to me. If someone is critical, I always think, wow, they're hurting. Because if they're saying that to me, their self-talk in their own head about themselves is equally as harsh.
Absolutely. I think it was Mel Robbins was the one that actually said, we're all doing the best we can, and we would do better if we could. And
Yes,
so give ourselves grace and give others grace. And I think that all goes back to that mindset work.
yes, yes, it does. It does. And that's why mindset is everything. I couldn't imagine starting a farm or running a business now, or having a family or anything without my mindset coach, because I swear my life is a Hallmark movie because everything's so positive. And I'm not gaslighting myself at all. But when challenges happen, I'm like, okay, that happened. That burned down. That canceled. That whole bed dried up and died. And that's okay. That's life. That's farming.
Absolutely. Yes, I've had to learn that mindset, especially starting new. I've kind of had to chuckle as we're talking here because I'm like, if you only saw my weeds in my field right now, there's so many. And we have a really special guest coming next week. And this was so helpful for me because I was walking and harvesting this morning and I'm like, how am I going to have this person come out to our farm because
Oh,
I
yeah.
have weeds everywhere. We have knapweed uncontrollable knapweed at our new field. And there's certain areas that no matter what I do, it just keeps coming back. And I'm like, well, I could either spend all my time weeding or I could focus on actually having flowers to sell this year. And so that's what I've done. But I'm like, okay, now I'm criticizing myself for these weeds and thinking it's not good enough. So I love your mindset mentality that
It is what it is, and you're doing the best you can. And I know I have the same thing. I just had the pasture mower leave my house. I have a 3-acre pasture with nothing on it, and he didn't actually mow the grass. He mowed the weeds. Like, I hire someone to come and mow my weed pasture because parts of the farm look really gorgeous and the other part is weedy, and that's okay.
it is what it is. I'm so curious. You said that your daughter is a flower farmer. What's it been like to watch her carve her own path as a farmer?
Oh gosh, it brings tears to my eyes. It's wonderful. I think because of I don't know if she's aware of this or not, and she'll listen to this episode, so she will be, but it's our DNA or our genetics that I see her doing so many of the things I did when I started my farm 16 years ago. And she was a kid. So she she probably doesn't remember what I was doing, but she's doing them all today. And it's like, oh my gosh, she's doing what I did in her own way. And it's very unique and different. She has social media today that I didn't have back then. But so that makes me really proud as a mother that, like, oh, she knows what she's doing. She worked for me in helping me with my marketing for 3 years while she was in college. So she knows marketing inside out. So I'm so proud of her for starting her farm, diving in, feeling scared and doing it anyway, having loss and doing it anyway, creating a community. Talk about, like, she can put something up, an event up. And this is her first, like, she sold her first flower in June.
Oh,
And
that's
she'll
amazing.
put an event up on social media and it'll be sold out just like that because of she knows how to connect with people. And then so that the business side of it, yes, I'm just so proud sitting back watching her do that. And then the flower farming side of it, she's had a big yard. So she's been a flower gardener for years. And so then to watch her just dive into learning the differences between having a farm that you're actually going to sell the flowers versus just enjoying them. So yeah, I just couldn't be more proud of her and supportive and excited for her. And she is the 6th generation in our family to have a farm. And so, yeah, I can't say enough amazing things about her and her flower farm. She's going big places with it.
That's so exciting. I love that she is a 6th generation farmer because I feel like that's becoming more rare these days because farmers are struggling more.
Yes, yes. And what's interesting is, so my ancestors came here from Ireland in the 1850s. All 6 generations have had a different product.
Oh, wow.
So it's not like it was like she's going rogue by having a flower farm. Every generation did their own thing, which I'm really proud of it, of my family. Like, look at us, a bunch of independent people. We didn't raise sheep just because grandpa raised sheep. We went and did our own thing. So I love that now she has completely transformed it from animals. You know, I took it from commodity crops to animals, and now she's farming flowers, and it's wonderful.
That's amazing. I love it. Thank you for sharing about that. In the intro, I mentioned that you have a free masterclass coming up that's called The 5 Mistakes Farmers Make That Keep Them Broke. Can you tell us what to expect? This is coming up in just a couple weeks, right?
It is August 18th and 19th. There will be an afternoon session where we'll go over the first 3 mistakes the Monday, and then Tuesday is a morning session. So, and there's a replay. So sign up. If you can't make it live to one or both sessions, you'll get the replay. The 5 mistakes are critical and crucial, and they're so common. It's for, if you're a beginning farmer, it will help you help you move away from making those mistakes, prevent making those mistakes. And if have been farming 5 or 10 or 20 years, and your chances are you're making all five mistakes.
Oh,
So,
really?
oh yes,
Interesting.
oh yeah, because they're so common. See, here's what happens. They see other farmers doing farming a certain way and selling a certain way. And so they start copying that, whether it's on social media or in person. We think, oh, that's how you farm and that's how you sell and that's what your flowers should look like and that's where you should sell. So I'm going to do that. And now none of them are making money, but they think it's the right way to do it because everyone else is doing it. So sometimes the mistakes I teach can seem counterintuitive, but once they start turning them around, they start becoming profitable. So yes, everyone will learn. It's often I do a lot of keynote addresses at conferences, and it's often the talk I give at conferences, and people in the audience are like, "Oh my gosh, I was making every single mistake. No wonder I've never been able to pay myself on my flower farm all these years." So yes, I highly recommend everyone come.
Perfect. And we have a link in the show notes for that. That is free. And speaking of keynote, you shared with me offline that you are going to be a keynote speaker at an upcoming ASCFG conference. Can you tell a little bit about that?
I am delighted to be the main speaker in the morning, and then I'll be doing another breakout workshop in the afternoon. And I am going to speak 2 hours in the morning on how to develop a marketing plan for your cut flower.
And this is the January Albuquerque, New Mexico annual
Yeah,
conference.
January 13th and 14th in Albuquerque. I'll be there. I'll be there in person. I'm so excited to meet people that I've only ever met online. So getting to meet them in person. And yes, and my second workshop is how to create a profitable email newsletter.
Oh,
So both are I like, my website says I teach farmers how to make money. So everything I teach is actionable and with the intent of, if you're going to work this hard, you need to be making money. Otherwise you're going to quit. Your family is eventually going to say, "Hey, you're gone all the time and you're using family resources. You're not even making money. Why don't," and even the farmer themselves see it as more attractive. Like, yeah, I could just do nothing and make more money. So that's
absolutely.
why my workshops are very focused on, let's get flower farmers sustainable.
That's so exciting. Well, I really hope to be at that conference as well in January.
Oh, good. I'd love to see you.
It's such a great time of year for farmers because it's our off season and it's right before you have to start waking up your plants and starting seeds. So,
Yes, so motivating to go there and get all that inspiration.
absolutely. Is there anything, Charlotte, that I have not asked you today that you want to make sure our listeners know?
Oh goodness, I could say 100 things, but I think that the two most important things that I would love your flower farmers to know is, we as human beings, we learn by doing. And a lot of farmers feel stuck and they don't take action because they're afraid they're not going to do the right thing. The only way you know what the right thing is to get out there and do the wrong thing. So just start doing. Don't wait till you know what's right or what people want or what you should be doing. Just start doing and making all those mistakes. And then the second thing I touched on earlier is, you are worthy just because you exist. There's no evidence in the world showing that you have to prove your worth. You can't work hard enough to be better than the person next to you. And a lot of flower farmers get stuck thinking, I can't charge, I have to prove my worth to be able to charge that or do that or say that. No, your worth is inherent. And the more you can practice believing that and embracing that, the more you will value the work you're doing. And then other people will value it. Other people won't value your prices or your flowers if you don't do it first. And it starts with valuing yourself. So yeah, that's a belief that I hope everyone can practice embracing, because that belief is life changing. You show up differently for your flower farm and your customers and your family when you believe that.
That's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Where can listeners go to learn more about your podcast, your programs and coaching, and this upcoming masterclass. We will have a link in the show notes. But can you give us a quick little...
Yep. So my website is charlottemsmith.com, and my podcast is everywhere you listen to podcasts. It's also on the podcast page on the website, but it's on iTunes and Spotify and all that. It's called Profitable Mindset. And then the masterclass is if they go to charlottemsmith.com/masterclass, they can sign up for that. And when this one's over, like say they're listening to this episode next year, there's always my next free training at that link. So they can go there and see what upcoming thing I have. And it's always actionable. It's always something that's going to help you make more money and be more successful and sustainable.
Perfect, which is something
I am on Instagram, and it's charlotte.m.smith there too.
Perfect. I will include links to each of those in our show notes today. Charlotte, we have covered so much, and this has been such a great conversation about mindset and how it really does impact everything we do. And it's what limits us from going to that next level and being profitable in our business. So I'm so grateful for this conversation and that you've taken this time today. And I would love to connect with you again in the future. If you have any other workshops coming up that you feel like would be beneficial for our audience, there's always an open door here.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's a privilege and an honor for me to be able to share this, what I believe is the most life-changing thing I've ever learned that affected my life and business. So thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. This was a great conversation. Thanks so much, Charlotte. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, flower friends, for joining us on another episode of the Backyard Bouquet. I hope you've enjoyed the inspiring stories and valuable gardening insights we've shared today. Whether you're cultivating your own backyard blooms or supporting your local flower farmer, you're contributing to the local flower movement, and we're so happy to have you growing with us. If you'd like to stay connected and continue this blossoming journey with local flowers, don't forget to subscribe to the Backyard Bouquet Podcast. I'd be so grateful if you would take a moment to leave us a review of this episode. And finally, please share this episode with your garden friends. Until next time, keep growing, keep blooming, and remember that every bouquet starts right here in the backyard.